So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening from various parts of the world. And hello also to our online viewers in the Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation page. Share this live with your friends and help us to increase the reach of this event. Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation is a global network founded by Radha Paudel through Radha Paudel Foundation in Nepal. Its purpose is to re-examine our past and reimagine our future through dialogue about dignified menstruation in the whole world. In the second wave of COVID-19 in Nepal, the Radha Paudel Foundation and Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation is helping the unreached health institutions by providing oxygen concentrators, pulse oximeters, and other medical supplies. We knock to our generous donors, and if you want to extend help, you may see the details of our social media page where donations can be sent. We thank you for your generosity and may you be blessed abundantly. We would like to invite you also to like our social media pages, Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation, Radha Paudel Foundation, and Dignified Menstruation PH to be updated with our events and activities. You can also visit our website at www.dignifiedmenstruation.org. So I am Mafe Pastorpide, your host for today, and I'm the country representative of Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation in the Philippines. Just to give you a brief background, I first saw Radha's presentation in the Asian Institute of Management when she presented her work in the class taking up Masters in Development Management. Currently in the Philippines, I'm serving with JCI Philippines through its local organizations. Menstruators are requested to participate to provide the Philippine chapter a picture of what are the problems in the country and where should we start first. So for those who are new to this conversation, allow me to give a brief background about our advocacy. Menstruation is a normal process and is part of life. However, with the various culture that we have, some menstruators are experiencing various forms of restrictions. We at GSCDM are leading the conversation and dialogue to eventually break the limitations that sometimes come in conflict with dignity of the menstruator. Each country has its own story. Even the first world country, menstruation is a silent topic, and as we progress, we invite more advocates to join us and be the champions in your own country. Look for your country representatives on our website and get in touch with them so that they can assist you in joining our events and activities. Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation defines dignified menstruation as a state of freedom from all forms of stigma, restrictions, discrimination, abuses, and violence associated with menstruation. One major event that we have is celebrating December 8th as Dignified Menstruation Day. So last year, amidst the pandemic, we hosted a hybrid international celebration, a 3-day international workshop on dignified menstruation. It was convened by the Ministry of Women, Children, and Senior Citizen Nepal in association with the National Human Rights Commission and Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation, as well as Radha Paudel Foundation. So this is the second workshop on dignified menstruation held between December 8 to 10, the year 2020. The first was organized on 26th of May virtually. The theme of the workshop was Menstrual Talk Dignity First and brought together around 1,000 participants from more than 30 countries. So the workshop covered the following 5 key themes. First is putting dignity at the center. Second, dignity is key for psychosomatic development. Third, menstrual dignity across the life cycle from puberty to menopause. Fourth, menstruation and multiple pandemics. Fifth is the menstrual dignity of political interest. So this 3-day workshop aimed to ensure the dignity of menstruators in all their diversity across the life course, as well as magnify the campaign of dignity during the menstruation at all levels and across all sectors. So the workshop included speakers from a diverse range of several sectors, including academia, media, government, international organizations, and civil society. During the inauguration, a lyrical video entitled Dignity and a book entitled Dignified Menstruation, a practical handbook, was also launched. The book features 40 contributors from 22 countries, an important contribution to the narrative on dignified menstruation at the individual, family, social, and global level. The workshop sessions involved passionate speeches and deep churning on a range of issues, ideas, solutions related to dignified menstruation. It called for an urgent need to view menstruation with a human right lens, challenging the siloed approaches, breaking the silence, and challenging gender stereotypes in day-to-day life. It has paved the way for bringing a change in the hearts and mindsets of communities and called for policy advocacy for the inclusion of dignified menstruation as a human right. The workshop ended on a high note where organizers, keynote speakers, and participants signed up to commit to achieving 12 action points to bring dignity to all menstruators based on human rights, gender equality, and social justice underpinned by the voices, stories, and pride of menstruators in all their diversity. The three-day international workshop on dignified menstruation with the slogan Menstrual Talk Dignity First churned and discussed a range of issues, ideas, solutions related to dignified menstruation, dignity, discrimination, taboos and stigma, the impact of the life cycle approach, involving boys and men, the role of media, policy advocacy, political interest, and involvement of lawmakers, as well as pandemics affecting menstruation. Allow me to share the key learnings and points from the workshop. First, dignified menstruation is missing from the global policy discourse. As it is not quantifiable, policies are not addressing the root cause and just treating the symptoms. There's a need to develop a common language, framework, and definition of dignity accepted and owned by all stakeholders involved. An intersectional feminist approach needs to bring forth the human rights aspect of dignified menstruation rather than just limiting it to the biological aspect. Second, now is the time to say goodbye to patriarchy and reclaim the human rights of all human beings. Embracing differences where everyone can make decisions of their lives and live with autonomy. Paradoxes are existing where on the one hand, positive cultural practices during menstruation and celebration of motherhood are observed in various cultures globally, but on the other hand, gender-based violence and discrimination, shaming of menstruators, considering menstruation as dirty, still exist. Third, capitalism and patriarchal thinking further reinforce harmful practices, which include the promotion of medical treatments that interfere with the natural process of menstruation. Medical advancements should not be used against menstruators and perpetuate the already existing discrimination during menstruation. Fourth, challenging stereotypes and disseminating correct knowledge, body literacy is required. Although menstruation hygiene is a health issue, it has cultural factors that impact its perception. So all campaigns and education sessions should include intervention to include cultural factors, not just on sanitary pads. So sorry for the dog. He's trying to get into our conversation. So number 5, speakers called on challenging white supremacy and the savior attitude while designing policies and in national and international narratives, as well as coverage of dignified menstruation in mainstream media. There's a need to delineate from colonial thinking and approach to address the issue of discrimination of menstruators, just focusing on the global south, whereas the issue is global. Although the deliberations on the topic are being led by global south countries, the issue of lack of dignity during menstruation is global, irrespective of where menstruators reside. The levels and forms of discrimination may vary, but it is still existing across the globe. Sixth, involving local communities is important if we want to bring sustainable change. There's a need to research, document, and promote good and supportive practices, policies, and laws that are already existing that support dignified menstruation. Seven, there is an urgent need to move away from programs and bringing change in the minds and hearts of people if real change is to be achieved. Eight, bringing women to decision-making tables at all levels is key to moving towards a more equal and balanced view of the world of dignity. Nine, adopting and promoting a life course and a holistic approach instead of a siloed approach from puberty, menarche, post-pregnancy, menopause, and beyond. 10, media to become responsible and involve individuals, communities, and let them tell their stories in the way that they want to, rather than for sexier or sensational stories. 11, involve men and boys in the discourse on dignified menstruation, educational resources to be made available and accessible for both menstruators and non-menstruators. 12, discrimination during menstruation has a lifelong impact on the mental well-being as well as self-confidence of menstruators. 13, politicians and lawmakers need to rise above the challenge in initiating the dialogue on dignified menstruation and translate law and policies into reality. 14, policies and discourses around menstruation need to be inclusive, not leaving anyone behind when talking about dignity. There's a need to deconstruct heteronormativity in narratives and discussions. And last, 15, creating the environment where menstruators have freedom of choice, make informed decisions, and have basket of products to choose from based on the individual circumstances and needs of the menstruators. So that's a lot of key learnings that we did. We had last workshop. So we hope that with this sharing, we have piqued your interest. And so we invite you to join us for our celebration this year. But before that, let us bring back our focus to the speaker of our session today. She comes from Pakistan, an assistant professor at Forman Christian College in Lahore, Pakistan. So please help me welcome our speaker for today is Dr. Ayra Indrias Patras. Let us call on her to introduce more about what she does.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mefe, for your introduction and for sharing the insights of your work. And as you have also pointed out, that it is very important to carry out activities on this particular topic, which is very close to our heart, and we know the ground realities. And when we, talking within the, region of South Asia, we share many similarities on the issue of menstrual health and, in terms of, accessibility, affordability, adaptive, and even adaptability. So here in Pakistan, as you have already said, that I teach political science in one of the universities, Forman Christian College University, which is based in Lahore. So I'm based in Lahore, and I'm involved with women's movement as well, and try to contribute whatever I can to raise issues pertinent to women and religious minorities in Pakistan, and involved in advocacy work as well. Because it is very important to engage with state and to raise demands, then the change comes in the process. So, and on this menstrual health care, I have been involved in this field for the last more than a decade. I've been doing work. I've been connected with grassroots women. I've been carrying out activities such as training, seminars, meetings on awareness raising perspective, from an awareness raising perspective, building consciousness among women, telling them that they are not, when they menstruate, they are not impure. They need to deconstruct all the cultural, restrictions. So this is the brief kind of work I'm involved in.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Ayra. So we have prepared a few questions that we can hope we can discuss for the rest of our 40 minutes. So first question would be, how did you get inspired to work on menstrual activities?
I have been working with grassroots women for the last 14 years. And I've been engaged in various community-based projects. And mostly the women were coming from, poor backgrounds, and especially many were, belonging to minority communities. What I have observed that they are, navigating through multiple uh, mm, barriers on the count of their low class, caste, a minority religion, gender, and above that, when it comes to menstrual health care, it is another barrier that adds to their lived experiences. Like women, they feel that when they are, when they are having their periods, they are not clean, and it is affecting their livelihood, it is affecting their self-esteem, confidence. So that kind of experiences, the stories of women, various women, they shared their stories with me, and that gave me an impetus to raise these issues wherever I can. So to build a sort of solidarity with other women's network, with other groups who are working on these issues. And this is how I got interested into it, because when I see that this is not about only a general discourse, it's about people's lives, it's about their daily realities. So that really created a kind of interest in me to work on this specific issue.
Thank you. And then can you tell us more about what kind of menstrual issues prevail in Pakistan?
Mefe, as I said, that we share many similarities in South Asia. We share when it comes to, I always say that there are, maybe there are more than three A's, but I have divided these issues in three A's, like affordability on the basis of, class, low class women, poor women, very difficult to purchase pads, and especially when you are three or four sisters living in a small house and you are experiencing poverty, so how you can purchase pads. So that is, affordability is one issue. Then accessibility to right kind of information, learn how what about your body. And I'll be explaining you subsequently that how women are not aware about their bodily changes. They are not, like, they think that okay, if it is natural, it is fine, but at the same time they cannot understand their reproductive system. So accessibility to right kind of information. And the other A was affordability, accessibility, and acceptability. The third A, it is not, menstrual health is not considered, as a natural process. It is not still accepted to discuss these issues in public. And there are, kind of notions stemming from shame, stigma, silence. Such notions are further silencing the voices of women. These things are really troubling their lives. There are some issues which I know in the South Asian countries, women are facing kinds of issues. And on the other side, I hardly see any active media advocacy on this very subject. Like there was an Indian film, Pad Man. I think it got banned in Pakistan, and still people, even in advertisements in through various, media campaigns, I hardly see this issue being given importance or given priority. That is why if women do not have right kind of, they do not have access to right kind of information, so definitely that vacuum vacuum will be, filled by all kinds of stigmas and stereotypes. And then they will keep thinking themselves, oh, we are impure. There, kind of a restriction in terms of food. There are some socio-cultural or traditional, understanding, which is very much we say it as domestic knowledge, and they mostly, stop women from eating spicy food, or from like eggs, which are very nutritious, and they are, protein based food. It is, women should eat during menstruation, but they think that this is hot. Everything is, the food is divided into two, binary, either hot or cold. And it is common to say that eggs, meat are, and spices are hot, so women should not eat this kind of food during menstruation. And they don't realize that how much they suffer weakness. It affects their immunity, it affects their, um, their health. So there are some things like this.
Okay, so for the access to information, I think we can do that with the education. So, what kind of education system or curricula do you think you have for addressing menstrual dignity?
you know uh, if like, I have been involved in doing a review of school textbooks, and what I have found that there is a general, uh, chapters on general awareness about hygiene, such as washing hands and taking bath every day, but there is not any specific mentioning of reproductive health care, or any chapter that discusses about menstrual health, or all the stages of menstruation, and considering it as a natural and a normal process. So I see a gap in the education curriculum as well. Although there are some civil society organizations in Pakistan, and they have been raising these issues, and they say that issues such as menstrual health care or reproductive health care should come under the umbrella term of life skills learning, life based skills learning. So this chapter can be added. So people are struggling, people are trying to talk to the government, and they are trying to make linkages, but there's a long way to go. So whereas you see, education is a very important tool, like in schools, or even in colleges and universities. Recently in Lahore, in one of the elite university, as they have started discussing this issue, and then they are they made the provision of sanitary napkins free for their women inside toilets. So, but again, it is an elite university, so only rich people can access this universities. What about women who are facing, they hardly have toilet facilities? Because I have worked with sweeper women who are sweeping away the dust, and they are doing this kind of work. And although it is but they hardly have access to public toilets. So that is problems.
So, in your opinion, where does the menstrual movement should focus? Is it in hygiene, in dignity, or in what other areas?
So many other movements are already working on hygiene. Hygiene is a general subject, like healthcare practitioners, healthcare workers, or the whole hygiene is being highlighted. But I think menstrual movements should focus more on dignity, and should work towards deconstructing these cultural notions, or these traditional notions that make women think that they are impure. This very purity and superiority which is ascribed to male, and impurity and inferiority are ascribed to female bodies. The whole concept of objectification of women bodies, because they are considered as if you have to hide them. And if you are talking about menstruation, so they most of the time, majority is thinking menstruation from a very, what to say, from very stereotypical lens, and they say that it is, but women bodies are considered as impure. So if women bodies are considered as impure, so the whole menstrual thing is not discussed, because they think, oh, it is shame, women should discuss it at home or with their mothers only, or they should hide. And to an extent women hide, that they don't report, even if they, I have seen many women who were facing some infections, but they were not reporting to hospitals, and they were not telling to even to their parents, because they think it is shameful. And many girls who are experiencing it for the very first time, they become, fearful, or they become, because they are not, they have not been told that it is a natural process. So a kind of, bodily shock women take it to themselves. It affects their mental health and their self-confidence and self-esteem. So mostly you need to, women's movement should work from feminist perspective, that why women bodies as, impure, or why there's a politics on women bodies.
So do you think that research, let's say for studies, should focus more on the dignity part? And do you think the research in your country relating to menstrual dignity, what is the status? Or are there researches available already?
Very little work has been done on this issue. As I told you, that still there is a strong taboo, that you cannot raise these issues in public. It is dishonor to discuss it, and it will bring shame. So very few researchers are interested to do work, because most of the time researchers, they want to do, they want to market their studies. So such issues get, hidden, they get camouflaged. So very little research work is done on this issue. And plus availability of like women, they search data would be difficult to attain.
So what do you think can we do to actually like overcome this challenge? Not just in your country, but I think it's also the same situation in other countries in the Southeast Asia.
First, you need to build discourse at various level. Like you have to take this menstrual health care as a cross-cutting theme with other causes as well. Like if you're working on women rights, so it's a cross-cutting theme. If you're working on, on dignity, if you're working on, discrimination, so it's a cross-cutting thing. So it has to be incorporated, instead of, working on this issue in isolation. So otherwise, it will be remain isolated. So we have to do it as a cross-cutting, and bring discourse, bring a kind of discourse at national, at international, at even at local level. Like so many welfare work is being done by, civil society organization. Even governments are involved in welfare projects with for poor communities. But are they focusing on this particular subject or not? Like you have seen in COVID, like so many people have, given being are giving food rations, and free foods are being distributed. But I hardly see that menstrual pads, or any sanitary napkins are distributed, because it is not a priority. People don't think. So we need to, in order to sensitize people to think through this challenge, or to raise their voice, or to, consider it, that this is a priority, because it is not only affecting women, it is affecting the peace of the household as well.
That actually happens also during during disasters, because in the Philippines it's we are by this time a lot of typhoons are coming into us. So like every time there is like like a drive for donation, there are very few NGOs or groups who actually but I'm happy that there are at least one or two that I saw who already like when we asked for the drive for donation, they donated menstrual products to be distributed in the beneficiary area, but very few actually, if you notice that.
Even
So
in Lahore as well, I have seen, this relief efforts. I was, looking at from that perspective as well, that how many relief efforts are taking this issue as their priority. But I hardly see, except one very, it was a group of women volunteers, and then they went to a little village, and then they contacted me, and then they went there and distributed, let's say, 40 or 50 sanitary napkins. So it's a very, few groups or few women were doing, but on the whole, it was only food. But in COVID, stores were closed, markets were closed, women access to healthcare facility was,
limited.
hampered, and it was, affected, and they had to, most of the time, men are staying at home, and then women had to make choice, either to ask either to buy food or to buy sanitary napkins. They had to make a choice because of poor financial conditions, and above all, they cannot go to marketplaces. So that was
So I just shared earlier the Dignified Menstruation Day. I just would like to know if in your country there were NGOs who took part and participated, and do you think it's important that there will be participation from your country?
it is very important, when we are celebrating the day, uh, that means that we are drawing attention to this very specific issue. There will be seminars, trainings, and, awareness raising programs. People will be, allocating funds to do this kind of activity. But in Pakistan, I have told you that I am very much connected with women's movement, with women's issues at national, local, at level. But I have hardly seen the marking of this day in my country. But I think we need to work on this, and try to talk with even civil society organization, even with the government, to draw their attention to this particular cause.
Okay, so as a South Asian country, do you have so we have many commonalities with the countries we are working, such as Nepal. What are your suggestions to overcome the common challenges?
I think if we need to, getting together is very important, and we need to build alliances, and we need to, and our work should be followed by concrete activities in our context. It is good to have webinars and discussions and seminars with people who are like-minded, but it is very important to then take this lesson, or discuss these issues with those who do not who oppose such agendas. But it is very important to discuss these things with those people as well, and to build a bridge. And South Asian women, they can, get together, and they can meet, and then they can plan and further activities, and then we can always, share good practices from each other, because so many good things must be happening at your end, and I may not know. I can learn from you, you can learn from me, and then we need to share reports of our activities as well. Otherwise, sometimes trainings or seminars at national or international level is just are converting into a kind of tourist activities. So it shouldn't be tourism on this very important subject. It should be a real calling to get together and to work on these issues.
Okay, so I think those were some of the questions that we prepared for you. But is there anything that, like for the last word, um, what can you leave to our audience as a major takeaway? If they will remember one thing from this session, what would it be?
Oh, it's very difficult. It is up to them to remember whatever they want. But one thing which I really want to focus, that we need to deconstruct these negative notions which are attached with women bodies. Women bodies are considered as weak, and and this very thought converts into, inflicting a kind of psychological violence on them, and it can lead to other kinds of violence. So how to dismantle this kind of thinking that women bodies are not weak, and it is not shame to discuss these issues, because it is affecting so many women. It is affecting their families. And when women are not at peace, how can they be good mothers? How can they be good friends? How can they be good citizens? So if they have to be at peace, and people from all segments of the society should raise this issue wherever they can, and consider that this is natural. Menstruation is natural, it is normal, and we should not hide it, and women should not be considered impure. It has nothing to do with ascribing qualities such as purity, impurity, less, or high. So it is a natural thing.
Lastly, do you think religion plays a very big part in the culture that we have, like in terms of the administration?
I think the interpretations of the religion that matters. What kind of interpretation, and it has to be emancipatory. It religions, all religions teach us lesson of peace, love, and harmony. And peace, love, and harmony cannot come without identifying on the obstacles that that hinder the coming of peace, love, and harmony. So I think we need to identify the problems, identify our challenges, and then we can really translate the learning of the lessons of religion into reality.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Ayra, for giving us an hour of your afternoon. It did allow us to see the situation in Pakistan, and we hope that our viewers learned a lot. So this is recorded, so I hope you can share this still to your friends. Share with us your takeaways by leaving a comment. And again, we would like to invite you to like and invite your friends to like our social media pages. So Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation, Radha Paudel Foundation, and Dignified Menstruation PH, to be updated with our events and activities. And you can also visit our website at www.dignifiedmenstruation.org. So do you have some invitations also that you would like to invite our audience to?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. So again, this is Mafe Pastorpide, the country coordinator of Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation Philippines. Join us again next time. So we'll try to play some videos so that you can also learn from them. Thank you.
Thank you.